Selections. So what about the selections? How to select and mask workspace in Photoshop? Creating accurate selections and masks in Photoshop is now quicker, by the way, and easier than ever before. And a detected new workspace helps you make precise selections and masks. And you can use tools like the tools at a glance to clearly separate foreground and background elements and do much more. And be careful here, please. Now the select and mask workspace replaces the refine edge dialog in earlier versions of Photoshop, by the way, and offering the same functionality in a streamlined way. And how to launch the select and mask workspace. How to launch the select and mask workspace in Photoshop. You should open an image in Photoshop and do one of the following now. Choose select, then choose select and mask. Then press Ctrl+Alt+R if you use Windows, and press Cmd+Option+R if you use macOS. And enable a selection tool such as Quick Selection and Magic Wand or Lasso. And now click Select and Mask in the Options bar. Like a screenshot now. Options bar here now. Select and Mask button. And then you press Select and Mask. And in the Properties panel for a layer mask, click Select and Mask. And you can also set the default tool behavior, such that double-clicking a layer mask opens the Select and Mask workspace. And simply double-click a layer mask for the first time and set the behavior. Alternatively, select Preferences, then select Tools, then select double-click layer mask, launches Select and Mask workspace. Community video, and use the select and mask workspace. We have now user interface to select a mask. We have AMP, and we want to explain what's meaning. A is meaning that tool options, and B is meaning tools, and C is meaning adjustable properties. This is the user interface to select and mask workspace. So what about tools at a glance? Tools at a glance, the select and mask workspace features a combination of familiar and new tools like a quick selections tool and define edge brush tool and lasso tools and hand tool and zoom tool. By the way, quick selection tool make quick selections based on color and texture similarity when you click or click drag the area you want to select, and the mark you make doesn't need to be processed. And because the quick selection tool automatically and intuitively creates a border link for an even easier experience while using the quick selection tool, and then click select subject in the options bar to automatically select the most prominent subjects in the image in a single click. Like this screenshot now. This screenshot now is meaning that quick selection. How to make a quick selection in Photoshop? Click select subject to automatically select the most prominent subjects in the image, like this screenshot now. And refine edge brush tool. Refine edge brush tool, by the way, is meaning that precisely adjust the border area in which edge refinement occurs. For example, brush over soft areas such as hair or fur to add fine details to the selection. And to change the brush size, press the bracket keys. And what about brush tool? Brush tool is meaning that begin with making a rough selection using the quick selection tool or another selection tool, and then refine it using the refine edge brush tool, and now use the brush tool to finalize or clean up details. And you can use the brush tool to fine-tune selections in two simple ways, and paint over the area you want to select in the add mode, or paint over areas you don't want to select in the subtract mode. And the brush tool, by the way, in the select and mask workspace works much like the corresponding tool in classic Photoshop. And what about object selection tool? Object selection tool is meaning that draw a rectangular region or a lasso around an object, And the object selection tool finds and automatically selects the object inside the defined region. So what about Lasso tool? Lasso tool is meaning that you can draw freehand selection borders using this tool, by the way, and you can make precise selections. You can make precise selections anytime. And the Lasso tool, by the way, in the select and mask workspace works just like the corresponding tool in classic Photoshop. And what about polygonal lasso tool? Polygonal lasso tool is meaning that draw straight edged segments of a selection border. And using this tool, you can also make straight or freehand selections. And the Lasso tool in the select and mask workspace works just like the corresponding tool in classic Photoshop. And you can select this tool from the options when you right click Lasso tool, like this screenshot now. And what about hand tool? Hand tool is meaning that navigate around an image document quickly and select this tool and drag around the image canvas. And you can also switch to the hand tool quickly by pressing H while using any another tool. And this tool this photo, by the way, works just like the hand tool in classic Photoshop. And what about zoom tool? Zoom tool is meaning that magnify and navigate around the photo and works just like the zoom tool in classic Photoshop and in many other applications. So what about options bar? Options bar is meaning that add or subtract from the refinement area and adjust the brush size if necessary, like this screenshot now. Options bar. And what about simple all layers? Simple all layers is meaning that you can create a selection based on all layers instead of just the currently selected layer. So what about refine the selection? How to refine the selection? You can also refine your selection in the properties panel of the select and mask workspace. Adjust the following setting. And how to view mode setting? View mode, by the way, is meaning from the view pop-up menu. Choose one of the following view modes for your selection. Number 1, onion scan. Visualizes the selection as an animation style, onion scan scheme. So what about marching ants? Marching ants is meaning that visualizes and selection borders as marching ants. So what about overlay? Overlay is meaning that visualizes the selection as a transparent color overlay, and unselected areas are displayed in that color, and the default color is red. So what about on black? On black is meaning that places the selection over a black ground. And so what about on white? On white is meaning that places the selection over a white background. And what about on layers? On layers is meaning surrounds the selection with areas of transparency. And then press F to cycle through the modes and X to temporarily disable all modes. So what about show edge? Show edge is meaning that shows the area of refinement. And show original is meaning that shows the original selection. And high quality preview. High quality preview is meaning renders an accurate preview of the changes. This option, by the way, may affect performance. And when this option is selected while working on this image, hold down the left mouse button and mouse down to view a higher resolution preview. And when this option, by the way, is deselected, a low resolution preview is disabled, even on mouse down. And what about transparency or opacity? It's meaning that sets transparency or opacity for the view mode. This setting, by the way, applies beyond the select and mask workspace to the overlay view mode in classic Photoshop. And what about edge detection setting? Edge detection setting. It's meaning we have radius. Radius is meaning determines the size of the selection border in which edge refinement occurs, and use a small radius for sharp edges and a large one for softer edges. And what about smart radius? Smart radius is meaning that allows for variable width refinement area around around the edge of your selection. And among other use cases, this option, by the way, is helpful if your selection is a portrait that includes both hair and shoulders. In such portraits, the hair might require a larger refinement area than the shoulders, and where the edge is more consistent. So what about global refinement setting? Global refinement setting is meaning that we have smooth. A smooth is meaning reduces irregular areas and holes and values in the selection border to create a smoother outline. So what about feather? Feather is meaning blurs the transition between the selection and the surrounding pixels. And what about contrast? Contrast is meaning that when increased soft-edged transitions along the selection border become more abrupt. And typically the smart radius option and refinement tools are more effective, by the way. So what about shift edges? Shift edge is meaning that move soft edged borders inward with negative values or outward with positive ones. And shifting these borders inward can help remove unwanted background color from selection edges. What about output setting? Output setting is meaning that decontaminate colors and replaces color frings with the color of fully selected pixels nearby. And the strength of color replacement is proportionate to the softness of selection edges, by the way, and adjust the slider to change the decumination amount 100%. Maximum strength is the default value. And important here, because this option changes pixel color, it requires output to a new layer or document and retain the original layer, so you can revert to it if needed. So what about output 2? Output 2 determines whether the refined selection becomes a selection or mask on the current layer, or produces a new layer or document, like this screenshot now. Output setting and decontaminate colors, and we have output here now, and then click and reset the workspace to revert the setting to the original state in which you entered the select and mask workspace. This option, by the way, also reverts to the original selections and masks applied to the image when you entered the select and mask workspace. And select remember setting. What about select remember setting? To save the setting for a use with future images. The setting, by the way, are applied afresh to all future images, including the current image if it is reopened in the select and mask workspace. Community video. Mask here using select and mask. Community video. Mask here using select and mask. More like this: create a temporary quick mask, then make quick selections, then mask layers, and select with the lasso tool, and select with the polygonal lasso tool, and filters effects reference. How to make quick selections? How to make quick selections in Photoshop?